Your main man returns with character creation case study. That's right. We're going to be doing a case study in character creation. I've had so many people ask me, put one of your characters on here, break it down from the beginning, explain the whole deal. Okay, fair enough. We're going to do that. Now, let me tell you this about character creation, generation. The genesis of the idea, of the concept, can be anything. It can start anywhere, and that doesn't matter. Your idea might be, well, gosh, I have this red cloak. I have this vivid image in my head of a red cloak, or of this particular design of bastard sword, or whatever it is. These intricate details. You want to say, oh, I have orange eyes, or dreaded hair. Wherever that first piece starts, run with it. Add to it. The more you can add, the more intricate it'll be, the more detailed it'll be, the more interesting your character will be, because you'll have more facets that you can describe, more facets that you can role play, more complexity, and try to get as much as you can out of these. You know, you might say, well, I have this red cloak. Well, let's start with the red cloak and then work backwards. How'd you get it? What does it mean? Why do you have it? What's special about it? And that doesn't mean, well, I say magical. Let's try to weasel something like that. No. I mean, it might just be an actual cool backstory that doesn't involve any power uppage. It's just more story, more things you can use, more stuff you can do, you know. And give yourself as many tools as you can to work with. That's a great piece of advice to really kind of think about. The more you can work with, the more entertaining you can be, the more versatile you can be, the more scenes you can be in, the more stuff that you can generate. When the scenes are generated from you, that's going to be a very good thing for you. I'm going to leave that right now with your mind. So, when I'm approaching a game, generally the first way I start, unless I have like right off the bat, after the game master described the world and so forth, and I like to listen because I want those details in my character. If you're a game master, right, and you've developed a world and you have all these neat things that you like, guess what? I want to have some of those things put on my character, because the worst thing I can do is bubble make and go, okay, well, here's a prepackaged bubble character that's fuck everything that you thought was cool that you made in your game. Nah, son, I don't care nothing about that. I'm only going to do mines. Well, as soon as you do that, the game master, he wants you to get his stuff. He wants you to invest portions. You don't have to like, okay, well, you did this, let me do that too. Well, I'm okay, you're doing this part over here, you said? Give me more information on that. And then you start coming up with stuff, and even then you might throw an idea in. Well, what about this? What about this? Or can you tell me about this part? Just start going with it and building around the ideas he has. And once you've done that, you've more thoroughly invested him in your character and thoroughly invested your character into his world, which means you're going to seem more like a breathing part of it. And you have a character that just doesn't really feel right or make sense in the world, that can be a problem. Now, in this game, there are 4 players. I am playing something that would be described as a monster, barely, in the game. The other 3 are all humans. It's a human-centric world. However, there are other things around. Humans have kind of smashed the cultures of most of these other, I mean, including like elves and dwarves. They have subjugated everybody. I think he said like over 70% of the world's population for sentient species, sapient individuals, whatever you call them, is like human. So I mean, it's like everything else is like in 30%. So you can imagine, you know, there's a lot of humans. So that makes sense, right? We just said 70%, and 75% of the player characters are human. So if you're watching that as a TV show, well, that makes sense. But you wouldn't want 4 humans. You know, you want something else to add a little flavor. And I'm a big proponent of one. Make one monster race in a party, and then the other players kind of fill in, and they make they make it like the normal. Humans are half elves or dwarfs or whatever it is, and then you have something a little bit further past the boundaries. Not like an Audiog or the Tarrasque, man-like intelligence, you know, but something that's reasonable. So you go, oh, I could believe that. I mean, let's look at Star Trek. I mean, you got a Vulcan. That's a monster species, son. But they got one. It's not like there's 8 Vulcans up on the deck, but they don't mean anything. 8 Vulcans wouldn't mean anything. 1 Vulcan means something. And you could tell stories. It gives you more to work with, more stories to tell. With 3 humans, they all have stories you can tell, but adding something else in, there's additional layers and levels of stories. There's reasons that you could go to other places, or that you would. And that gives the Game Master more to work with. You want to give your Game Master as much to work with as you can. The more you give them to work with, the less they're going to burn out, the more fun they're going to have, the more intimate they can make the stories to your character's personality, and that's overall going to make the whole thing work better. For me, I'm a big proponent of when everybody's going right, I'm going to go left. Because, you know, I'm the only car going down this street, so I'm going to get there faster, I'm going to get there better, I'm going to see things that are not. That's a big part of my philosophy, just in life, in general. If the trend is this way, I want to go the other way. I want to do something different. and that's worked out very successfully for me in a lot of different ways. But in character creation, I'm going to run through my stats right now. And I had 74 points to build a character. It didn't matter where they went. There was no uppage. He basically takes my system. Pretty much everyone that touches my system, they fall in love with it. It was the a point buy system. They just made all kinds of sense. I made this up in AD&D Second Edition. As soon as I saw like White Wolf, I said, "Oh gosh, I got to bring that idea into D&D. You got to be able to." I hated dice rolling. I never liked it. I kind of felt almost guilty, like you had to do it for a while. But I said, "Nah, son, here, just have some points." It eliminates so many problems. And first you want to say, "Oh, what about power gamers?" Well, I don't let power gamers play with me. That's how you solve those things. I don't let people like that around. So when you have these points, make the character here, then translate it into the paper. I don't want you to make the character on paper and try to translate it up here, where you're like, well, I had this idea, but I kind of got close to making it. No, son, that's the ball. We don't want that. You do better than that. So for me, I have my points. So the character's made when I got there. It's completely done, psychologically, mechanically, description-wise. I have the voice ready. I have the name ready. I got it all ready. We're not sitting there for a whole night making the characters up. So I'll walk in. I got the character. I'm going to run through my stats right now. Then I'm going to come back and say why I chose these stats. I have a 10 strength, 10 dexterity, 12 constitution, 14 intelligence, 12 wisdom, 16 charisma. Now, when talking to the game master, basically came around, he wanted to have a magic user type. That's what he wanted, and I had to kind of pry that out of him. So I said, okay. So I have his kind of imprint there. Now I'm known. My favorite gimmick is to play like a warrior magic user type, and I've done that before. So I said, damn, because even playing a straight wizard, I'll tell you this: I played a straight wizard before. It was a warrior magic user. I can make that work. I can, you got to be kind of good. Like, okay, I'll play this big dude. And they're like, oh, he's like a fighter. I'm like, no, dude, I'm just a straight I'm a straight necromancer, actually. But boom! My club to your nugget. What's good now, son? And if you want a cool weapon, like I might buy a feat for that. Like, oh yes, I'm just a normal wizard, but actually I have a two-handed sword, or I have a military fork. It's like, oh, because no one's gonna think that they're gonna think you're at fighter levels, but you're just straight up like a magic user, and with the proper spells and maybe having some decent physical scores, maybe not the highest intelligent, but you could come out with a deal that is pretty interesting there. But I've done that before, so I said, well, what I usually don't ever do is actually play a wizard that isn't like a powerhouse, that isn't a because I like that, because people don't ever play a wizard that's a powerhouse, the wizard that's an acrobat, something like that. That's a different deal. Trust me, it takes getting a little creative, but it can be done. So I design and say, okay, well, the image I'm getting in my head is this really painfully skinny individual, but very, very tall, and that helps accentuate it more. Get the long fingers and so forth. Now, I'm dueling, and I made him an enchanter, because I don't play wizards, but I'm dueling with ideas of hobgoblin, because I love a hobgoblin, or am I even an orc? And my mind's like, hobgoblin orc, because I only play one, right? You only get to pick the one race, but you can definitely wrestle yourself. And I basically made two different characters, and they were quite different. And then after I made them, I sort of integrated. I went with the orc, because I thought, well, orc enchanter, man, no one sees that coming. That is a whole different deal right there. That's probably damn well on unique. Not a half orc, just straight full of orc. So I'm playing this orc, and I said, okay, well, I have an orc. Let's go different. But we got a foundation on this character of an orc. He's an orc, and we're going to get to why he's an orc later. But let me tell you about my stats a little bit. Statistically, I saw him I saw him basically wearing this kind of cut down like that leather shirt, like dress kind of a deal. Comes down this long sort of brown leather dress. And then I have this like big leather bracer on my arm like this, and it kind of looks like armor. It's not a jerkin. It's not really going to qualify as armor. It's too soft. It's too supple. It doesn't give me an armor class bonus. But just throwing the word leather in there in the description is a great way to kind of help hide a wizard. And I like to hide that character because I want to present it when the time is right. Like it wasn't until the second game session when the first game, they had no idea what I was doing. Like, oh, is he a thief? Well, what is his deal? Well, no, it wasn't a thief at all. But when they start seeing spells and results, and I usually will whisper to a game master, or like write it on a piece of paper or something. I'm gonna do this spell, but you start seeing effects and so forth. You can start piecing it together. But at the end of the second game session, when I'm playing, oh, you're playing a wizard, which is not exactly right, but the other player goes, he's not a wizard. What? A wizard? I never saw that. And he's like, yeah, he's a wizard. He's casting this spell and that spell. And one of the other players was just blown away. He couldn't believe that was a wizard because it didn't look like a wizard. I had for my weapon, I kind of like this metal rod, and I made it. I'm not going to give you the description now because it's going to run long in the video, but very ornate. And I went down and wrote out and described the occult symbols on there. At the very edge of the top is an eye. So he's from this background. I said, we're in the world of your orcs. He said, well, there's this huge forest. In the middle of the forest, there's this big mine, this mountain, and that's where the orcs come from. I said, okay, well, what do the orcs do? Again, this is a world that's 70% human. All the other species come down to about 30%. The other player characters, 3 of them, and 3 of them are all human, and I'm an orc. So that means that's pretty much right on, and that's what you'd like, like I said, like watching Star Trek, and you see Spock, well, he's a monster, or you see Worf, he's a monster, but everyone else is human. So it helps to highlight and spotlight my character more. If it was like a bunch of monsters, that gets goofy. I don't like games like that at all. But when you have one, it isolates it and makes it special and interesting, yet still being able to tell that same story. And his game, again, orcs are like barely tolerated. Like you could walk into a town, like you might have some problems, you might not, but you're not like a random monster encounter. It's like, oh, there's an orc. Particularly if you have business there, it's like, oh, okay, well, that makes enough sense. And in addition, the way I'm my character, like he's going to be less of a problem. I mean, this guy has very, very high charisma, so he's going to be less of a problem. And we come down with a character, we'll flip stats around, like particularly with specialists, they didn't do right by him. A wizard, they all just have the same class skills as a wizard. An enchanter and a wizard should not have the same class skills. So my character for class skills is like diplomacy, intimidation. He has bluff. He has, I think, gather information. And I said, well, let me get appraise on there too, because from the background I have, I'm gonna be a merchant. That's the way he fits in. Now, of course, I didn't just get all these for free. I sacrificed out other skills that a wizard would have. That I said, well, my character doesn't necessarily need any of this stuff as class skill. And maybe I'll pick it up later as a cross class or something. But these are the things that would really make sense. Now, you also might notice when I did the character, who's painfully skinny, works at +4 strength, and at 10 strength is very, very small. So I mean, you're looking at probably like a character that was like a 7 or even a 6 strength if I had been like a human. But he's tall. He's taller. It's like a half foot taller than a normal orc in his world, because I wanted to help even fully accentuate the skinniness even more. He had problems being bullied and so forth when he was younger, but he's from a decent clan that has some differences. He's from a decent parentage, and with the trade of gems and so forth, they've gotten more and more money. You understand? They've gotten to be a better position, and he helps bring that along. I remember, he's not strong like an orc, but he's smart. A 14 strength for an orc who already has a penalty to intelligence is very high. Now you might go, well, why don't you just max your intelligence out like everybody else does when they play a wizard? Well, I don't want to do that. That's right, I'm already behind the ball with the penalty. They might say, well, damn, a 14 intelligence, you can't do much with a wizard like that. But, I mean, you can at least get up to like 4th level spells. It gives me some time to work that route. In the end, it could do something different. You never know what kind of classes I may or may not take, whatever makes sense in the game. So I try to say, okay, well, that's what I've experienced, that's what happens, so let's kind of go this way or that way. I generally like to have a lower dexterity for characters unless my character's deal is dex. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to play this really, really dexterous guy. If it's not an issue for my character, I usually go with an average or even below average dexterity, because I see high dex. I've seen more points in dex over the years than I have in any of the other stats. And I got sick of it. So I just said, well, if you guys all have to have a high dex, not that the people I play with now do, but I got tired of it early on. I said, well, I'll just have the low dex. So that makes me different. Again, you're going right, I'm going to go left. You guys want to have low charisma? Well, I'm going to go left. I'm going to have a high charisma. And I'm going to see what I can get, where that streak takes me. Now, having a high dex, or having a low, I mean, that's average dex. It's not bad. Of course, the strength of 10 for an orc is very low. But that makes it a little different. Of course, in any kind of combat, boy, I'm done. I have a 10 armor class and 5 hit points. I want to go with a little bit higher con. Again, he's not that physical, but to me, Constitution as a stat works would probably have. Plus, he's been bullied, he's been pushed a little bit, and he has such a small frame, a weaker skeletal structure. I said, well, he should probably have a decent enough Constitution. I think that makes sense. I don't want it to be really off the charts, but a decent one. So we're going to go with 12. 14 intelligence, still very, very intelligent for an orc. And that gives me ways to come across and to use that intelligence. Of course, I do a character voice, speak with him. He's from, with 12 wisdom, I said, well, he's probably more worldly than what an orc would be. Probably more insightful in other cultures. Probably less full of rage, less full of, more able to work with other people, more able to adapt, and more civilized. So I said, well, let's go with a higher wisdom. Even though typically when you see people build wizards, man, they be dumping that stat of wisdom. I see that a lot from power gamers. Like, well, wisdom doesn't matter for a wizard. That's for a cleric. Well, why wouldn't a wizard also who's learned, who's become aware of the world around them and mystically, why wouldn't they have a higher wisdom? At least a bonus, at least an 11, if nothing else. I said, so let me go with a 12. But I wanted him to have this high charisma. I said, man, that's going to be a good deal. Because he's still an orc, and that's why I'll go with the intimidation, right? And, I mean, he can really kind of stare you down. He has these black eyes, and, he just really lean on and he can look down at the humans. And he's small and so forth, but he has that eldritch quality, that mysticism, that occult ability that you can't quite put your finger on. Like, oh, this guy's a little creepy. There's a little when he wants to be, but at the same time, I have that diplomacy. I have that bluff, so I can work different social situations. I have appraised, so I understand value of goods, and a little bit. I have gather information, which so he's a little bit streetwise. He can deal with people at the high end or at the low end, and keep it moving around. He understands the savagery it works. I'm sitting there like in a banquet scene, and like I'm eating the human food and all this stuff. But then we're out there on the road, or we're finally getting to the adventure deal at towards the end of the second game session. I bring out, well, they were talking about the rations, getting these rations, but I bring out my rations, and I'm talking about like their rations, because let's break it down. You got like hardtack. Hardtack is disgusting. You got maybe some ridiculously salted meats and stuff like that. I bring out my rations. So we're in a fantasy world. We're not limited to know what kind of animals. I say, grubs, they're about this long. I'm pulling these huge sack I have here. I pull a grub out, and it's all moving around. And the one guy's playing a cleric, one of the gods of madness. He's disgusted. He's freaking out. One of the other guys is more like a savage warrior. So I'm like taking him, or eating. I just right down the sheet. Why wouldn't an orc eat something like that? Of course, that'd be delicious to him. You're in a cave, right? You're under the earth in a forest. There's going to be insect larvae, and these big insect larvae, these big beetles that they raise. Why wouldn't you have insect larvae? I put a little damp earth in the pouch. I've kind of thought the whole deal through. So he's eating those. You understand? He eats it right in front of the other player. Just starts selling, all disgusted. And then I flip it on him. Coming at him with well, this is our food. Because I'm like offering him some. Like, the character's trying to be friendly. Oh, here you go. You can have some of this rations. Because he didn't have any. He's like, oh no, I'm disgusted. He's all. And the other player is like, kind of like, oh, he's not too sure, but I give it to him. So, it's very good. And he's more savage. He's like, well, all right, I take it. Hey, you didn't. He puts it over like kind of a little bit. Like he's like, oh, I mean, it's not the worst thing ever. And I keep trying to like give it to the other character, because he's trying to like, kind of ingratiate himself. He's with all these humans. He doesn't feel as comfortable as he could. If you give somebody something, then and they've accepted it, then it's kind of like you have one on them. They have accepted you by accepting your thing, and he's just rejecting it. So it's making my character even more a little uncomfortable. So he's like trying to, and he starts getting a little savage. So you kind of see the base, right? Because he's all suave and sophisticated. He's clean. I'm using my prestidigitation spell. He's so clean that you're like, oh, how orcish is he? But then you start seeing it, right? That's not something I wanted to produce right away. I wanted to bring it to the forefront later. And he starts getting like agitated and angry, and he's like, getting kind of like he's just about to go wild on him. And it starts coming out. That primal fury, that savagery, those characteristics of the society, a savage society, but built up to a sophisticated individual from a savage society. He brings savagery in a way that's sophisticated, but at the same time he can deal with the cultures and customs of other people. His customs are still going to be savage in their base, but he's presenting them to a pinnacle point, if you get what I'm saying. and I'm trying to get him to eat it. He's getting more like he's selling and getting mad at me. So, I mean, not out of character, but just in character. His character getting mad at my character, and but it gave us a good little deal. No, my character, he's from this beholder worshiping group. They worship like a beholder, beholder cultist, which I think that's always awesome to me. I will worship a beholder all day long, but my character doesn't know. It's like kind of almost like I don't want to say it's like a Mason group in like kind of some crime thriller type novel where they're really some murdering devil worshippers or something. Not like a real Mason deal is going to be, but like a Mason thing might be through the eyes of fantasy fiction, something like that. So up to the high levels, you finally find out about the truth. My character's like right at the beginning, he doesn't really know about these truths, but he's got that eye insignia worked into a lot of his occult stuff, and I have it on my. But he has a mace. I took a masterwork mace for my weapon, but it's like a rod, an old school D&D kind of rod, and it's metal. It has like some gold inlay and all these intricate symbols. Because I mean, look, I got a 10 strength. I'm not really, hitting stuff. It just doesn't. It wasn't happening. I actually even tried in the game to hit some things, and it just did. Trust me, it didn't work too well. So a plus on bonus is that it doesn't matter. I mean, I realized after Game Master realized that it's an accessory. It's a decoration. He's trying to show that status that I'm rich, and I have some other things that show that off. And characters like that, a wizard is a great character to put money on because it doesn't matter. So, okay, I got a masterwork weapon. That doesn't matter. I got a +1 to hit. It doesn't make any difference. I don't have any bonus damage. I can't go and buy armor or things like that. So with extra money, it's not something I can use to empower myself very much. It just helps give me a better context for what we're doing with the character, and it works well. It's nice and smooth. The character, I don't think I mentioned his name, which I should have done. Craval Abarax, which that's the character's name, and I'm real congested right now, so I'm trying to do the voice, but I'm going to do and kind of start going for it like that, and then I bring it down more nasally, which is why it seems hard for me to do. Yeah, that's why I think for what we're doing here. And then that's coming across quite bad, so I'm not going to keep doing it because I got so much congestion right now. I can't quite get the proper depth. When you're doing voices, spend time working on that voice before you get to the game. One of the worst things you can do is get there, do the voice for like 40 minutes, and then realize it's a voice that your voice cannot sustain for a prolonged period of time. And you're like, oh, and then the voice starts changing because you're like messing your throat up. It's like, I've had that happen more than once, and I definitely learned from it. But I have this insignia. I have very intricately detailed clothing and my design, and my character's like I say, when I'm describing him, like talking about not even any plaque on his tusk or his teeth. There's no dirt on him anywhere he is. Like his long braided hair, everything's immaculate because he doesn't like to be dirty. It's just a unique quirk of him. Not to say that those orcs aren't filthy, but it's something he doesn't like. And I think statistically, right, my highest status charisma, which while I do have some skills and so forth that help out, it's not my caster stats intelligence, so that's a kind of a unique deal. It's kind of different, and particularly with wizards, you see people like maxing out that, and they're going to say, well, why would you play a character that has a penalty to start with in that stat? Well, the highest I could possibly have is a 16 instead of an 18, or hell, they're going to go, let's go. We're going to make a wizard. Let's just take our race just that has an intelligence bonus. But I went with a race that's intelligence penalty, and then I didn't even go all the way up, right? So that presents different. It makes the character closer to unique. I always try to push to be close to unique because it comes out and it helps tell stories. The same thing. What interesting story can you tell with the same thing? Make something different. And that's what I did with this character. It plays in interestingly. He is neutral evil. I don't think I mentioned that part. And that kind of came in. He's an orc, right? Chaotic evil. I was thinking hobgoblin, originally lawful evil, and so I kind of mingled around there. I kind of thought maybe some neutral, but he's not. He's evil, but he's not like a hardline evil, And the priest knows that too because he actually cast detect evil on the fighter because the fighter was doing some stuff that was questionable. I think the fighter is probably chaotic neutral, but he cast it on him, and it kind of affects an area. So he's like, well, he isn't, but where he's like, oh, I didn't suspect. I wasn't even trying to look at him. He's like, well, he's right there in your vision. You see it. So he's like, so it's already, it's already started to deal, which gives us more to work with, more interesting stuff. And again, any of that stuff is on a grade. Like, you got to fit in one of the 9 boxes, but you know, I would say he's like an evil, but like a light evil. You know, he's not out there like eating people and burning villages down. You know, but at the same time, he has his reasons, he has his thoughts, and a lot of interest, possibilities. The character has a political mindset and middle caste and merchant, which, coupled with his savage aspects, can really help him present some different things as a character. And then you bring magic to the forefront. You can certainly do some great manipulations with charm person and spells like that are really interpersonal based. Particularly, like, we're talking a guy that has some good diplomacy. I got a 16 charisma. I got 4 diplomacy. I'm not the kind of person that goes 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. I've never done that. I hate that. Like, I'll spread myself very thin. I think I have a 4 diplomacy, and then none of my other skills hit 4. Some ways my diplomacy is special, right? My other skills are lower than that, but I have a lot of them as far as I can have. With the 14 intelligence and not being human, I have a lot of skills that are 1 and 2. I think I might have another one. I think my intimidation might have been 3, because I said, well, I want him to be intimidating in a different way, like in a social presence kind of way, in a savagery, in that kind of unexpected, kind of that wild card. You don't quite know, when he starts looking at you and leaning on you, you don't quite know where you fit in with him. And he has a force of personality. Again, you don't have to be big to be scary, particularly when people know you are capable of some other things. So, overall, it presented a character that is interesting. And I'm not going to get too much into the psychology because I'm running so long here. But overall, that's my character case study for you this time. Feel free to put your questions below. And that's what you've got. Sucker!